Welcome to Think Your Way Up with Dr. Jenna, the only space in the world where neuroscience, executive leadership, and purpose driven principles collide to help you disrupt your dysfunctional thoughts and do life and business better. I'm Dr. Jenna, the friend in your head who will challenge you each week to evict your mental chatter, eliminate your yo-yo thinking, and help you attain the clarity and tools to think up. So let's disrupt the mental chatter together because your next breakthrough starts now. Welcome to Think Your Way Up.
Hey, Think Up friend. It's your girl, Dr. Jenna, and we're back with another episode of Think Your Way Up. And today we're talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I've had to learn to do over the last 10 years. And this technique has changed my life. So when I graduated college, I moved from Austin to Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I was working as a leasing agent for a property called Waterfront Properties. Most people don't even know that, but yeah, my very first job out of college was a leasing agent. And let me tell you, I loved this job. I loved it because I could talk to people. I could move around. I met people from all parts of life, from all different parts of the world. And I could sell, I could make people see vision, I could connect with people. It was all the things that I do now. It just looked differently as a leasing agent. So in Virginia Beach at this property, we were close to Oceana, which is a naval air station. And we were a couple miles from the base. So the property that we were at, it was prime real estate. This is where a lot of young military families, they would move there because they were close to the base. We had great schools. It was a nice area. The property was beautiful. There was lakefront views. So anywhere on the property, you would have access to a lake. So it didn't matter what apartment you chose. Every apartment had a lakefront view, hence the name Waterfront. So I love this job. I love this property. I worked with some incredible ladies and that we are all connected, like we're still connected to this day on social media. And this has been like 20 years ago. But we were all like around the same age group. We were starting our families. We were young professionals and we were just trying to figure out like, how do we do life? How do we do womanhood, wifehood, motherhood? Like we were just trying to figure it out. So we all formed an amazing connection and relationship with one another. So at this property, there were times where, like any property, where there would be individuals or families that were experiencing some hardships and they couldn't pay their rent. They couldn't fulfill their contracts. So a part of what the assistant manager did is that she would have to, at the end of the month, she would have to do like account reconciliation. So she would look at all the accounts and try to get people to pay, try to get them on payment plans to collect their rent. And if she couldn't, then it went to the manager. And then he would have to go to the courts and make a formal appeal for an eviction process to begin. So then when the judge granted that, they would come back and there would be these letters that we would place on doors. And you could see it in an envelope, you know, those white envelopes, you could see they'll have this red font and it would say eviction notice. And that meant that those occupants would be served an eviction notice to vacate the property within 72 hours. So you're probably wondering, like, what in the world does this have to do with anything that we're talking about? So years after that, when I really started trying to figure out how do I change my life? Like my life was so jacked up. I had so many hardships, so much pain, so much obstacles. Like I had done well on paper. So if you looked at resume, if you looked at transcripts, if you looked at the outside Jenna was okay. The outside Jenna was doing well. But the inside Jenna was a hot mess. And I remember my grandmother used to tell me that you cannot be a public success and a private failure, that whatever's on the inside is going to come out. And so I would always think about that and I would hold that near and dear to me, but I couldn't figure out how do I match what's on the outside? The outside Jenna was confident, was ambitious, was driven, was focused, was successful. But the internal Jenna was struggling with, I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified. Why is this so hard for me? Why is it easier for everybody else? Like, when are things are going to turn? When are things are going to get better? And I was really struggling with this whole like mental chatter. And I remember sitting one day and I was just like, girl, you just got to get this out. Like, you got to stop letting these self-sabotaging thoughts occupy your mental space. Like, you got to evict this thing. And I said, that's it. The same process that we used when I was a leasing agent at 23 and 24 years old, where we would physically serve of notice, I had to put my own self on notice. Like, I didn't need the hands, I didn't need the words, I didn't need the help of the enemy or anybody else. I was doing enough harm and damage to me that nobody else even had a chance. But what I didn't do and what I didn't know how to do at the time was to put myself on notice. But it was at that moment that I said, that's it. I have to evict the things in my head that are no longer serving me. So if you look at the definition of evict or eviction, it means to expel from a property or expel someone from a property, especially with the support of the law. So for me, that meant that I had to expel things, thoughts, people, situations, habits, toxic relationships, limiting beliefs, fears, worries, doubts. I had to expel things from the property, my mind, from occupying that space with the help of the law. What's the law? The law is what God says I am. The law is who Jesus says I am. The law are the things that are written and scribed in the Bible. That's the law. So that meant that I had to expel, remove, out, eject things, people, words, beliefs, ideologies that were no longer serving me, that were canceling out my faith, canceling out the promise of God. I had to remove those things from my mind and replace those things with what the law said, which things that are affirming me, things that are helping me, things that are noble, things that are true. Like, I had to take captive of those things. So I'm sharing this with you because you may be in a season or be approaching a season where you're going to have to evict things that are no longer helping you, but they are hurting you. You're going to have to get things out that are not serving you, but are keeping you stagnant. They're stalling your growth. Because what I know when I'm talking to leaders and organizations is that many people are holding on to things that don't serve them. They're holding on to bad habits. They're holding on to toxic relationships. They're holding on to limited beliefs. They're holding on to things that are not helping you, which is preventing them and prohibiting them from moving into the next level of their life. They're weighed down from the things of their past. So even if they wanted to accelerate, even if they wanted to excel, even if they wanted to be propelled into the next level, the weight of their words is too much. The weight of their thoughts and beliefs are too heavy. So today, what I want to do is help you to put your own self on notice, to evict the things that no longer serve you. So there's a few steps. You all know I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher at heart. I've been teaching since I was 7 years old, teaching kids in the neighborhood. But there's 4 steps that you have to do if you want to evict things that no longer serve you and move into the next level of your life. The first thing you have to do, and I want you to write this down, is that you have to identify the mental clutter that's holding you back. The same way we have physical clutter in our homes, our offices, our closets, our bags, our purses, our backpacks, in a junk drawer, whatever that physical clutter, we have to identify the mental clutter that's holding us back. For me, because I'm going to live out loud and I'm going to model the way and I'm going to be real and upfront with you. The mental clutter that was holding me back were the things that I was believing and telling myself, I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified. I'm not worthy. Like, it's only hard for me. Why is it easier for everybody else? I can't do this. This is too much. It was the things and thoughts and words that I was saying to myself that was holding me back. So I had to identify that mental clutter. The second thing that I had to do is that I had to learn how to set boundaries and protect my energy. Being a person that is drawn to people, that when people see I'm a magnet for people. Like, when people see me, they automatically want to come to me and they want to vent, they want to give, they want to dump, they want to share their problems with me. It used to be so funny. My son, he's in college now, but we would go to stores and he'd be like, Mom, don't make eye contact. Like, don't talk to anybody. Because I would say, "How are you?" And they would tell me, "Things are good." And they would begin to tell me their entire life story from the grocery store to the Chick-fil-A line to the airport. Anywhere that I go, there's a magnet, there's something on me, on my forehead that says, "Talk to me, tell me all your problems. I can help you and I want to help you." Because people would literally give that to me. So I had to learn how to set boundaries and how to protect my energy. Being a person that leads people, that sows into people every single day, I would allow people to share, dump, and vent, and then I would have to carry that into the next space that I was walking into, whether it was going into a meeting or going to the training or coming home to my family. So I had to set boundaries to protect my energy. Like, I can serve you, I want to help you, I want to hold your hand and walk you through this and walk with you, but I also have to protect my energy and what I can and cannot tolerate. So set boundaries and protect your energy. One boundary that I am intentional about setting in this season right now is social media. There is so much chatter and so many voices, and every single voice, as I shared in the previous episode, does not deserve access to my mind. So I'm setting boundaries. I'm curating the content that I need and that I want to absorb that's going to be fruitful for my spirit, fruitful for my soul, and help me with the things that I am navigating in this life. If it does not add to me, it's subtracting, and it does not need to be in my space in this season. So set boundaries and protect your energy. The third thing I had to do is that I had to stop negotiating with self-sabotage. Like, that's a whole bar by itself. I had to stop negotiating with self-sabotage. I would literally have entire conversation with myself, self-sabotaging me and negotiating how far I could go with myself in the self-sabotaging space. I would be so cruel and harmful to me, more so than anybody else. Like, if somebody on the outside world tried to say those things and talk to me that way, they wouldn't even stand a chance. But I would allow myself to talk to me and treat me that way. So I had to stop that. I had to stop negotiating with self sabotage. And if it doesn't help me, then it's hurting me and it cannot occupy my mental space. It has to go. You are evicted. You are out of here. You're not coming back. You have been removed by the court of law. You have been removed. You have been ejected. You are out. You're in the locker room. Like, you're ejected. When a player gets ejected in a basketball game, they can't even sit on the bench. They got to go to the locker room. They can watch it from afar, but they don't have the capacity to be in the same space because of energy that they're bringing into that space. And that's the same level of authority that we have to take with things that are no longer serving us. We have to stop negotiating with self sabotage. We have to eject it because it doesn't deserve access to your mind, and it definitely does not deserve to be in the same space and room that you are in. And the last thing I had to do is that I had to sit and really think about, how do I release what no longer serves me? Like, we talk about releasing things that don't serve you, but how do we do that? What is the process of doing it? So I had to make a list of what those things are. And I took those things one by one and I said, is this helping or hurting? And it was hurting. And I would take whatever I was saying, I'm not good enough. And then I would have to reframe it. And I would have to say, I am more than qualified to do the things that I'm called to do. So I would reframe it. Then I would pull it back another layer and say, when are times that this has held me back of saying I'm not good enough? When are the times that saying I'm more than qualified to do what I'm called to do has helped me? And I would make a list. Then I would pull it back another layer. And I would say, okay, where did this come from? What situation, what circumstance, what condition in my life was attached to these words? And I would pull it back. And then I would look at, okay, if I keep saying this, what's the benefit? I'm not good enough. If I keep saying I'm more than qualified, what's the benefit? What's the outcome? What's the impact? And then I would pull it back. What do I need to say to me to keep me in this space? And I would pull it back. And this would become the process and the playbook for how I started releasing things that no longer served me. And then I started to do these mod checks, which is holding every thought captive. So anytime there was a thought that came to my mind, I would literally pause it. Is this helping to hurry? And I'll reframe it. And sometimes it took days to get out. Other times it took hours. Then it eventually went to minutes. Now it's seconds. Now I can literally be in a headspace and I can quickly reframe it. And then there are other times where I don't even have to think it. I can automatically push myself there. So everything is a process. This is not an overnight. This is not like we wave the magic wand and things automatically become better. We automatically start thinking, speaking, being, doing, and hearing and behaving better. It's not, it's a process. And the way that you handle any process is that you have to be consistent. You have to do it over and over and over, not until it works. It's not like an antibiotic, how people do antibiotics. They'll take it and they start feeling better and they stop it. No, you stay on this. You stay in the process. You stay in the motion. You stay in the movement. You stay running the play. You stay running the drill until it doesn't work anymore. Until it doesn't work anymore. Y'all know I'm a huge basketball fan, primarily. I love football too. I love all sports, but I'm a huge basketball because my son plays college ball. And at his last game a couple days ago, and one of his teammates was hot from the three-point line. He was hot right at the top of the key, so right at the front of like that three-point line, like the centermost point of a court. He was hot. They couldn't stop him. And then his coach decided to move him to a different part of the court, like in the corner of the three-point line. And he was missing. And of course, me, as a basketball sideline coach, I was like, why would you move him to the corner? He's hitting from the top. The other team hasn't adjusted. They haven't stopped him. So why are we stopping what's working? Let's adjust when it no longer works. So his coach never figured out that adjustment. He kept him in a corner and he kept missing. And then, of course, when he went back to the top, he was cold. And it just reminded me of what we're talking about today is that in any process for anything to work, you got to work that thing over and over. And you don't stop doing it when you get points on the board. You stop doing it when it's not working anymore. So holding on to things that don't serve you means that you got to identify what they are. You got to be honest and open with yourself and identify what they are. What does that mental clutter look like that's holding you back? Then you got to set the boundaries and protect your energy. Even if those boundaries are self-inflicted wounds, you got to protect yourself from you. Stop negotiating with self-sabotage. You wouldn't dare let somebody else speak to you the way that you speak to yourself. So what gives you an opportunity to give that? What gives you the advantage to do that? You got to chill. And then you got to think about, what is my process for releasing what no longer serves you? I shared mine with you. That's mine. You make that your own. You figure out, you spend some time with you. You fall in love with you and ask yourself, what is my process for releasing what no longer serves you? Do I need to write a letter and burn it? Like, what do you need so that you can make sure this process, it works for you? It's something that you can stick to. It is something you can be consistent. So here's my question, because I'm a thought person, and this is what thought leadership does. What's one thing that you know you need to let go of today? Thing, thought, task, person, situation, condition. What is it? What's that thing that you need to let go of today? So that's your task that I want you to focus on. So let's get into our Think a Friend question for this week. Right. So this question comes from Tammy. Tammy in Alabama. What's up, Tammy? Tammy says, how do I silence self-doubt and stop feeling like I'm not good enough? Tammy, I probably could have wrote this question myself. How do I silence self-doubt and stop feeling like I'm not good enough? So Tammy, thank you so much for just being bold and brilliant enough to even come to the stage and say, girl, I know this is an issue. I know that I shouldn't be doing this, but how do I even stop it? So let me just dispel this belief right now about imposter syndrome, because my initial response probably would have been somewhere along the lines of, Imposter syndrome is real and blah, 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 blah. But being a thought leader, I'm about to challenge the status quo on this one. So hang in there with me for a second. I do not believe and subscribe to this notion of of imposter syndrome. And here's why. Most of the time, the things that we are attacked with and attacked on or attacked for are the things that we have been gifted to stand in that space, to do, to serve. Like I'm attacked on mindset because that's the thing that I'm called to serve and help people do. So I don't even want to put this on imposter syndrome and say imposter syndrome is real because imposter syndrome does not exist when you're already called for it. And whoever God calls, he qualifies. So we're not going to even give credit. We're not going to even give points or even recognize imposter syndrome because again, it's not going to serve you. So I think the first thing is that you have to understand is that if God has called you to something, you are qualified for it. Now the question is, whose voice are you listening to? Because you're saying, I feel like I'm not good enough. Feelings are not facts. Feelings may be real, but just because it's real does not make it a fact. Your feelings are not fact. So the first question I have for you is whose voice are you listening to? Whose voice should you be listening to? Do you want to listen to somebody that's going to help you and propel you and loves you and believes you and says that I created you and formed you in my own image? Or do you believe somebody that's jealous of you? So believe somebody that would love to switch your place. Believe somebody that has nothing to offer you but pain and struggle and lies and deceit. So think about it. This is where we have to bring the Bible to life. Bring God, who God is, to life. Like we have to almost normalize God and the enemy in a way. Like, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the circle of girls that's at school or the circle of friends on your team, your teammates that are saying, you're the best, you're the bomb, we need you, we love you, you got this, you make everybody better? Or are you going to believe somebody that's going to trash talk you and down talk you because they really want what you have? Like when you think about it in such simplistic terms, it makes total sense. So whose voice am I going to believe? I'm going to believe the voice that created me, that says I'm the head and not the tail, that I'm above and not beneath. I'm going to listen to the voice that says I have access to everything because my daddy is the owner. That's the voice I'm going to believe. So first question is, what voice are you believing? Because you said, I feel like I'm not good enough. That may be real, but that is not a fact. So if it's not a fact, then we're going to forfeit it because we don't have time to play in that pretend world. So we're going to believe what is true. We're going to believe what is fact. We're going to believe what our maker says we are. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to just shift the narrative. Instead of saying, I'm not ready, you just say like, I'm here. I'm in the process. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm developing. I'm shifting. So we're going to shift the narrative, shift the stories on ourselves. Instead of saying, because you said, how do I silence self-doubt and stop it like I'm not good enough? Right? Instead of saying I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, is I'm in the process. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm getting better every single day. Like put yourself on notice and say, I'm getting better every day. I'm in the process of learning. That's the second thing. The third thing I want you to do is look, you got to keep a receipts folder. How people on the internet, they keep receipts, they screenshot. I need you to save screenshots of positive feedback, of wins, of progress that you have because you need proof and you need to remind yourself that you're capable. So I need you to save your receipts. I need you to save your screenshots. I need you to be receipt ready. Like I want you to keep a win folder, a receipts folder, whatever you want to call it. And I want you to save the screenshots of how you won, of when you received the positive feedback, of when you felt well, of days that you stuck to your diet, days that you stuck to your workout, days that you drank enough water, that you got enough sleep, like whatever that win is. There is no win that's too small or there's no win that's too big. Success is the sum of small efforts that are repeated over and over and over. So I want you to save your receipts folder. I want you to take action anyway. That's the fourth thing I want you to do. Remember, confidence, obedience, success isn't a feeling. It's a byproduct of action. So you can't, it's not a feeling. Just because you don't feel it, your feelings are facts. Like, if you want confidence, if you want to win, that only comes by you taking action, by you doing the work. And remember, the more you do, the less you doubt. The more you do, the less you doubt. And the fifth thing I want you to do is think up. I want you to create what you want in your mind first. I want you to see it. See the vision. See where you're going. See where you are. Think about, what are my thoughts that I need to be thinking about that's going to help me get there? What's one action I can take today that's going to help me get there? What is the action I can take tomorrow and the next day and the next day? That's the same thing that's going to build and that's going to help me get there. And you will get there. That's harsh. I believe in you. I know that you can win. I mean, you've already done the hard part, and that's acknowledging and saying, this is where I am. This is what's holding me back, and this is where I want to go. That's the hard part. Next part, it's all about consistency now. It's about building that muscle of resilience. So remember, friend, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what it feels like. Everything that you desire is on the other side of your fear. Life is not about getting to the destination. There's no destination. Everything we do, it's a journey. It's a journey of us becoming better, becoming bolder, becoming more confident in the process. It's about patting our own selves on the back and believing and remembering who we are and, of course, whose we are. It's about tracking our wins more than we track those lessons that we've had to learn. And it's reminding ourselves every single day that confidence itself isn't a feeling, but it's a byproduct of action. Or because it's a byproduct of action, the more you do, the less you doubt. So let's do it. You got this. I'm rooting for you. See you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Think Your Way Up with Dr. Jenna. I hope today's episode challenged your thinking, shifted your perspective, and gave you the tools to disrupt your mental chatter and step boldly into your greatness. Remember, friend, you're just one thought away from the clarity, confidence, and transformation you deserve. If you loved today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs this message. Let's spread the power of thinking up together. Until next time, keep challenging your limits, evicting your doubts, and creating the life and business you were meant to live. You've got this. I believe in you. See you next week on Think Your Way Up with Dr. Jenna.